Hello students, welcome to Zoology Classroom. This is L. Mahesh, Assistant Professor of Zoology from Thara Government College, Sangareddy. In today's class, we are going to discuss about glycolysis. This particular topic comes under BSc Final Year Zoology, 5th semester. So before entering into the topic, let us know what is metabolism. So metabolism is a series of interconnected chemical reactions occurring within a cell. In all the living cells, these metabolism activities will continue. Without these metabolism activities, living cells cannot survive. And the chemical compounds involved in these metabolism activities are called as metabolites. So metabolites are nothing but they are the chemical materials that participate in the metabolism activities. And the enzymatic reactions are organized into discrete pathways which are proceeded in a stepwise manner, transforming substrates into end products through many specific chemical intermediates. So these metabolism activities involve a series of chemical reactions. In this series of chemical reactions, stepwise reactions will go on. Due to these stepwise chemical reactions, initially substrates will be there. Those substrates will be converted into end products. And in the intermediate stages, many chemicals will be formed. Those chemicals are called as chemical intermediates. So in this way, in a pathway, we can find three types of chemicals. The chemicals which participate or which start the pathway are called as substrates. And the chemicals which are formed at the end of the pathway are called as end products. And the chemicals that are formed in between the stages are called as chemical intermediates. And characteristics of metabolism. These metabolic pathways are irreversible. Some activities may be reversible, but mostly these metabolic pathways are irreversible. That means they occur in one direction only. They cannot be reversible. Every metabolic pathway has a committed first step. And in this first step, as we have already discussed, the substrates will participate in this first step. The metabolic, all the metabolic pathways are regulated, and these metabolic pathways are the chemical reactions in a metabolic pathway are not irregulated, they are regulated. They are controlled by some other chemical materials called as enzymes and some other regulators. These metabolic pathways in eukaryotic cells occur in specific cellular locations. So these metabolic pathways occur in the eukaryotic cells in a specific cellular locations. That means in the cell there are different types of cell organelles and some different types of locations are present in the cells. So different types of pathways are there. Each pathway cannot be occurred in all the locations in the cell. So they are confined to a specific location. So this is also one characteristic feature of metabolic activities or metabolism. And metabolism, it is all the metabolic activities or metabolism is divided into two classes. They are considered as catabolism, and the second one is anabolism. So catabolic activities and anabolic activities are the two types of metabolic activities. And catabolic pathways, they transform fuels into cellular energy. Whereas anabolic pathways, they require energy to synthesize complex molecules. So in these two types of pathways, one is catabolic pathways and second one is anabolic pathways. Catabolic pathways, what they will do, they will transform fuels into energy. So the purpose of catabolic pathways is to release the energy from the fuels. Whereas in the case of anabolic pathways, it is reverse. They require energy to synthesize some complex molecule. As the name suggests, catabolism, they will catabolize. That means they will destruct the bigger molecules into smaller molecules. In that process, they will release energy. This is like demolishing something. And anabolic pathways, they are anabolic. That means they are constructive. They will produce bigger molecules from smaller molecules. In this process, they require energy for the production of or for the synthesis of complex molecules from simpler molecules. And we say that there are two types of reactions, anabolic reactions and catabolic reactions. But most biochemical pathways that occur inside our cells are amphibolic. That means we cannot categorize the complete pathway into anabolic pathway or catabolic pathway. Why? Because in a pathway, there are many number of chemical reactions will be taking place in a pathway. But in those reactions, one reaction may be anabolic in some way, but in some other way, that same reaction will be catabolic also. So in this way, some reactions in the pathway can be considered as anabolic, while some other reactions are considered as catabolic. That's why pathways are considered as amphibolic in nature. Both anabolic and catabolic reactions will take place in these pathways. So to call a pathway as anabolic pathway or catabolic pathway, the end products are very, very important. The end products are simpler or smaller than the primary products or substrates, then that pathway is considered as anabolic pathway. That means substrates are bigger than the end products. In such cases, the pathway is called as catabolic pathway. If the substrates are smaller molecules, whereas the end products are bigger molecules, if that is the case, the pathway is considered as anabolic pathway. So in some way, we may consider one pathway as anabolic pathway, but the chemical reactions that take place in the same anabolic pathway may be catabolic in some other way. In some different instances, they will be participating in catabolic activities also. So that's why we cannot name a pathway as a completely anabolic or completely catabolic. Depending on the situations, the pathway may be anabolic, and in some other type of situations, the same pathway will be considered as catabolic. That's why all the biochemical pathways, mostly biochemical pathways, are said to be like amphibolic in nature. And coming to our original topic, that is glycolysis. This glycolysis also, it is one type of pathway. Usually we consider this glycolysis as a catabolic pathway. And this glycolysis occurs in almost every living cell. In all the cells, this will be taking place. And it is the first metabolic sequence to be studied. So in the metabolism activities or in the biochemistry subject or in the biochemical investigations, the first metabolic sequence or the first pathway to be studied is this glycolysis. And this pathway is called as Embden-Meyerhof pathway. Why? Because the chemical sequences that take place in this pathway are studied by these two scientists, Embden and Meyerhof. That's why in their name, this pathway is named as EM pathway or Embden-Meyerhof pathway. And in all the living cells, this glycolysis is taking place, and that's we have already discussed. And where does this glycolysis take place in the cells? So in the cytosol or in the cytoplasm of the cells, this glycolysis will be taking place. In definition of glycolysis, glycolysis is defined as the sequence of reactions converting glucose to pyruvate or lactate with the production of ATP. So this is the definition of glycolysis. So what is the purpose of glycolysis? Glycolysis, the purpose of glycolysis is to convert glucose into pyruvic acid or lactic acid by producing ATP. So the purpose of glycolysis is to release ATP or to produce ATP. As we have already said in the earlier slides, the catabolic pathways, they release energy from the substrates. So here the substrate is glucose and the end product is ATP. So they will release the ATP. So ATP is the energy. So to release the energy from the glucose molecule, this glycolysis will be taking place. And here pyruvate or lactate or pyruvic acid or lactic acid, these are considered as byproducts. So an end product is the ATP and energy. Energy will be in the form of ATP. And salient features of this glycolysis pathway, it takes place in all cells of the body. The enzymes of this pathway are present in this cytosomal fraction of the cell. So in the cytoplasm, all the enzymes that are required for the occurring of this glycolysis are present in the cytoplasm. And glycolysis occurs in the absence of oxygen also. In that case, it is considered as anaerobic pathway. And in the presence of oxygen, it is called as aerobic pathway. And lactate is the end product under anaerobic conditions, whereas in aerobic conditions, pyruvic acid is the end product. And this pyruvic acid will be oxidized or converted into carbon dioxide and water in next stages in Krebs cycle. And this glycolysis, it is a major pathway for ATP synthesis in tissues that lack mitochondria, erythrocytes, cornea, lens, etc. So the energy releasing pathways are a couple of pathways are there. Out of those, this glycolysis is the first one, and later a Krebs cycle also will be there. After Krebs cycle, electron transport and oxidative phosphorylation pathways also will be there. So, all these four reactions or all these four pathways, they will generate energy and they will release energy from the substrate. So even though these four stages or four types of pathways are there to release energy from the substrates, glycolysis is the major pathway in some cells. The examples for such cells is mitochondria lacking cells and tissues that are lacking mitochondria. Apart from them, erythrocytes, cornea cells, and lens cells are also they will depend mostly on the glycolysis for their ATP needs or for their energy needs. And glycolysis is very essential for brain, which is dependent on glucose for energy. So brain cells also, they are dependent on glycolysis as they dependent on glucose only for their energy needs. The glucose in brain has to undergo glycolysis before it is oxidized to carbon dioxide in water. The glycolysis is a central metabolic pathway with many of its intermediates providing branch point to other pathways. So the intermediate of glycolysis are useful for the synthesis of amino acids and fats. That's why the pathways are said to be amphibolic. We have told already, we have been discussed that glycolysis is a catabolic pathway, but the intermediates that are formed in this glycolysis pathway will be useful in the synthesis of amino acids and fats also. So when the synthesis is taking place by a pathway, that pathway is considered as anabolic pathway. So even though the glycolysis is a catabolic pathway, the intermediates that are formed in this pathway are useful in some other anabolic pathway. That's why we cannot completely name this pathway as catabolic pathway. So that's why almost all the pathways are considered as amphibolic pathways. Glucose entry into the cells. So we know that as a result of digestion, the digested food materials enter into the bloodstream, and this bloodstream, the glucose will be transported to all the tissues and all the cells in the plasma of the blood. After reaching the tissues, how this glucose is transported into the cells from the blood or from plasma in the blood. So, and all the cells, they will be having a very special type of a transporter molecule in that plasma membrane. That special type of transporter that helps in the transport of that helps in the transport of glucose into the cells is called as glucose transporter 4, GLUT4, GLUT-T4. So this GLUT-T4 transporter molecule or protein, it transports glucose from extracellular fluid to muscle cells and adipocytes. Not only these muscle cells and adipocytes, remaining cells are also will be receiving glucose from the extracellular fluid or fluid with the help of this glucose transporter 4 molecule. And this glucose transporter molecule acts under the influence of insulin. So when there is a plenty of glucose present in the blood, then insulin will be released by the pancreas. And this insulin comes to the tissues. Under the influence of insulin, this GLUT-T4 transporter will be activated. The activated GLUT-T4 molecule transports the glucose from the extracellular fluid into the cells. So in diabetes mellitus, what happens? Insulin deficiency will be there. So due to the insulin deficiency, glucose will not be uptaken or glucose will not be transported into the cell. So it will be there in the blood only. So that leads to the side effects of the glucose, over glucose levels in the blood. So those side effects are the symptoms of diabetes mellitus. So GLUT-T2 is the transporter in liver cells. So in liver cells, in remaining cells, GLUT-T4 transporter is there, but in the liver cells, GLUT-T2 is there. So it is not under the control of insulin. And reactions of glycolysis. Glycolysis leads to the breakdown of 6-carbon glucose molecule into 2 molecules of 3-carbon pyruvic acid molecules. So with the enzymes, many enzymes will be catalyzing in the pathway of this pathway. So all these pathways, all the reactions that happen in this pathway are divided into 3 distinct phases. So the 3 distinct phases that are there in the glycolysis pathway are, first one is energy investment phase or priming phase, and second one is a splitting phase, and third one is energy generation phase. So energy investment phase, splitting phase, and energy generation phase. In some textbooks, we read only 2 phases are there. 2 phases are there. The 2 phases are energy investment phase and energy generation phase. So in this slide, we are seeing all the chemical reactions that occur in this glycolysis pathway. So in the first pathway, glucose is converted into glucose 6-phosphate. In the second reaction, glucose 6-phosphate is converted into fructose 6-phosphate. In the third reaction, fructose 6-phosphate is converted into fructose 1,6-diphosphate. And in the fourth reaction, fructose 1,6-diphosphate is split into 2 molecules. So till now, we can see that glucose is having 6 carbons, glucose 6-phosphate, fructose 6-phosphate, fructose 1,6-diphosphate. All these molecules are having 6 carbons. Whereas in this fourth reaction, the fructose 1,6-phosphate diphosphate, which is having 6 carbons, is split into 2 molecules. One is DHAP, dihydroxyacetone 3-phosphate, and another one is glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. So DHAP and glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, these are the 2 molecules that are formed by the splitting of fructose 1,6-diphosphate. So fructose 1,6-diphosphate is having 6 carbons, whereas these 2 molecules, they are having 3 carbons each. So this is the purpose of this glycolysis. So glycolysis purpose is that bigger molecules should be broken down into simpler molecules. In that process, the energy present in the chemical bondings will be released in the form of ATP. So this is a fourth reaction. So in the fourth reaction, what happens, after fourth reaction, what happens, this DHAP, dihydroxyacetone phosphate, and glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, both these 2 molecules are interchangeable. So this is the interchanging of this thing is the next reaction. That is fifth reaction is it that one, interchanging of the dihydroxystone phosphate and glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. So later what happens, this next reaction is a formation of 1,3-diphosphoglyceric acid. 1,3-diphosphoglyceric acid is the sixth reaction. In the seventh reaction, 3-phosphoglyceric acid will be formed in the seventh reaction. And in the eighth reaction, 3-phosphoglyceric acid will be converted into 2-phosphoglyceric acid. And in the ninth reaction, 2-phosphoglyceric acid is converted into phosphoenol pyruvate. And in the 10th reaction, phosphoenol pyruvate is converted into pyruvic acid. So these are the 10 reactions that take place in this glycolysis pathway. So the first step, second and third, fourth. So in these 4 phases, ATP, 2 ATP molecules will be utilized. You can see that in the first chemical reaction, 1 ATP molecule is utilized. And in the third reaction also, 1 ATP molecule is utilized. So these 3 reactions are considered as energy investment phase. So energy investment phase is the first phase. And in the fourth reaction, what is happening? Fructose 1,6-diphosphate is converted into 2 molecules, one DHEAP, dihydroxystone phosphate, and next one is glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. So it is considered as splitting phase according to 3-phase classification. According to 2-phase classification, till here, till the fourth phase, it is considered as energy investment phase only. So according to 3-phase classification, the first 3 reactions are come under energy investment phase, and this fourth reaction is considered as splitting phase. And from the 6th reaction onwards, next all the 6 reactions, last 6 reactions are considered as energy yielding phase. So these are the 3 phases that take place that are present in the glycolysis pathway. Now let us see stepwisely all these reactions. In the first step, what is happening? In the first step, phosphorylation of glucose is taking place in the first step. So glucose is phosphorylated by ATP to form sugar phosphate or glucose phosphate. So in this reaction, we can see that glucose is reacting with ATP. So ATP is having energy. So the energy present in the ATP transfers one phosphate molecule, one phosphate group to the glucose, so that glucose will be converted into glucose 6-phosphate. So glucose 6-phosphate is considered as hexokinase. So it is the enzyme that catalyzes this reaction is considered as hexokinase. So glucose is a hexose. So phosphate group is transferred to glucose. So transfer is considered as kinesis. Movement or transfer is considered as movement. So kinesis. So hexokinase enzyme will be helping this reaction, in this reaction. So, and the second step is considered as isomerization reaction. So this isomerization reaction is a reversible reaction. So first step is irreversible reaction, but this isomerization is reversible reaction. So in this reversible reaction, what is happening? Glucose and fructose both are having the same chemical formula. There's some chemical groups present will be different in those 2 molecules. So in the fructose, enol functional group will be there. In the glucose, aldehyde functional group will be there. So that is the difference. So functional groups are different. In remaining aspects, both are the same. So in isomerization process, what is happening? the reversible rearrangement of chemical structure of carbonyl oxygen takes place. So this carbonyl oxygen is transferred from carbon 1 to carbon 2 in the glucose 6-phosphate. So when carbonyl oxygen is transferred from first carbon to second carbon, then aldehyde group will be converted into a keto form. So in this way, ketose will be formed. So fructose is the keto form, glucose is the aldose form. So in this way, carbonyl oxygen will be transferred from first carbon of glucose 6-phosphate to second carbon of glucose 6-phosphate. When the carbonyl oxygen transfer is made possible, then glucose phosphate will not be there. That will be converted into fructose 6-phosphate. So in this way, there is no chemical reaction is taking place, or no chemical change is taking place, just chemical rearrangement is taking place. So this rearrangement process is called as isomerization. So this isomerization process will be catalyzed by this phosphoglucoisomerase enzyme. Phosphoglucoisomerase enzyme. So this due to the catalysis of phosphoglucoisomerase enzyme, glucose 6-phosphate will be converted into fructose 6-phosphate. Third step is phosphorylation. So first step also phosphorylation and third step also phosphorylation. As the phosphorylation we have seen in the earlier case, here also one ATP molecule is utilized to transfer one phosphate group to this fructose 6-phosphate. So fructose is already having one phosphate group. So now it is receiving another phosphate group from the ATP. So fructose 6-phosphate, now it will be converted into fructose 1,6 biphosphate. And the enzyme that catalyzes this reaction is phosphofructokinase. In the first reaction, it was hexokinase. Here in this reaction, phosphofructokinase. So fructose is already having fructose phosphate to it, so that phosphofructokinase enzyme will be catalyzing this reaction. And this reaction is irreversible reaction. And fourth step is the breakdown. So in the breakdown step, in the fourth step, what is happening? Fructose 1,6 diphosphate will be converted into glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate and DHAP, dihydroxyacetone phosphate. So this glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate is it will be called as GAP, glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, and another one dihydroxyacetone phosphate, it is called as DHAP. So this splitting reaction will be catalyzed by aldolase enzyme. So these two are called as triose isomerase, triose phosphates. So these two are having 3 carbons each, and hence they are called as, they each are having 3 carbons, hence they are called as trioses. And as they are having phosphate groups also, they are called as triose phosphates. So 2 triose phosphates will be formed. And these 2 triose phosphates like fructose and glucose, they are isomerase. They are isomers. So no chemical change will be there. So chemical formula of these two things is same. Just functional groups arrangement will be different in these two molecules, in GAP and in DHAP. So next fifth step is the isomerization. So in the second step also we have seen isomerization. There glucose 6-phosphate was isomerized into fructose 6-phosphate. Here in this thing, what is happening? Glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate is transferred or converted into dihydroxyacetone phosphate. So triose phosphate isomerase enzyme will be catalyzing this reaction. And in the sixth step, what is happening? Glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate dehydrogenase enzyme catalyzes the reaction, sixth reaction. So glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate will be converted into 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate. 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate. So 2 molecules of in the fifth reaction, what is happening? Dihydroxyacetone phosphate is converted into glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, so that 2 molecules of glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate will be there. So these 2 molecules of glyceraldehyde 3-phosphates are oxidized in this sixth step. So due to the oxidization of these glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate molecules, what is happening? Glyceraldehyde 3-phosphates are converted into 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate. So, and this reaction is catalyzed by glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate dehydrogenase enzyme. So, as a result of this step, we are having two molecules of 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate molecule. So, in this way, this is a resultant reaction. So, two molecules of glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate molecules are converted into two molecules of 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate or glyceric acid molecules. And in this reaction, two NAD and two inorganic phosphates are utilized, and they are oxidized to NADH. So here two NADH are being formed, and these inorganic phosphates are transferred to this glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate molecule. So as two glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate molecules are there, two inorganic phosphate molecules will be converted to each of these molecules, so that we will be getting two molecules of 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate molecule. So here also phosphorylation is taking place in this reaction. In the sixth reaction also phosphorylation is taking place, but the difference is that in the first step and in the third step, ATP molecules were utilized for the phosphorylation purpose. But here in the sixth step, phosphorylation is made possible with the help of inorganic phosphates and NAD plus molecules, NAD plus ions. So no ATP is not utilized in this purpose. And in this reaction, this NADH, two molecules of NADH are being formed. And these two NADHs, if they are participated in Krebs cycle and electron transport phases, they will be releasing more ATP molecules in the subsequent stages. So this is the sixth reaction. So as a result of sixth reaction, we will be having two molecules of 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate. And in the seventh step, what happens? So the transfer of high energy phosphate group that was generated earlier to ADP from ATP. So ATP yielding will be started from this step. This is also phosphorylation. So in the first and third step phosphorylation phases, ATP was utilized. ATP was utilized to transfer phosphate molecules to the glucose and fructose 6-phosphate. But here in this case, phosphate group from these 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate. So one phosphate group will be transferred from this 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate to ADP, so that ATP molecule will be formed. So as we are having two molecules of 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate, two ATP molecules will be generated, and these two molecules of 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate molecules, they will be converted into 3-phosphoglycerate. So this bisphosphoglycerate molecules, they are having two phosphates, one on first carbon, another one on third carbon. The first carbon, the phosphate present on first carbon is transferred to ADP molecule, so that ADP will be forming the AT. So in this way, in this reaction, this is the resultant reaction. So two molecules of 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate molecules are participating in this phosphorylation reaction. As a result, 3-phosphoglycerate molecules, two molecules of 3-phosphoglycerate will be formed. In this step, they are losing two phosphate molecules. Each one is losing one phosphate, and that phosphate is transferred to ADP molecules, so that we will be getting two ATP molecules. So that's why from the fifth stage onward, we are fifth step onwards, it is considered as energy yielding phase. Why? Because here ATP molecules are generated in these stages. That's why. And phosphoglycerate kinase enzyme will be catalyzing this reaction. And in the eighth step, what happens? This 3-phosphoglycerate molecule will be converted into 2-phosphoglycerate. So phosphate group will be transferred from third carbon to second carbon. So this is like mutation. So this eighth step is called as mutation. The phosphoglycerate mutase enzyme will be activating or will be catalyzing this reaction. So in the eighth step, 3-phosphoglycerate will be converted into 2-phosphoglycerate. And in the ninth step, dehydration of 2-phosphoglycerate glyceric acid will be done. So this is the second reaction in glycolysis where high energy phosphate compound is formed. So the 2-phosphoglycerate is dehydrated by the action of enolase enzyme to phosphoenol pyruvate. So this compound is the first phosphate ester of the enol tautomer of pyruvate. So this phosphoenol pyruvate can be formed of pyruvic acid in the next reaction. This reaction also, this 9-step reaction also is a reversible reaction. So in this reaction, what's happening? 2-phosphoglycerate is converted into phosphoenol pyruvate. Enolase enzyme is catalyzing this reaction, and water molecule also will be liberated in this reaction. And in the 10th step, what happens? Transfer of phosphate from phosphoenol pyruvate to ATP will be done. So 2 ATP molecules will be forming in this reaction, in the 10th reaction, and 2 molecules of NADH also will be forming in this reaction. So in the sorry, 2 molecules of ATP only will be forming in this reaction. So this is a last step, and this is also a irreversible step. In this thing, high energy phosphoryl group from the phosphoenol pyruvate will be transferred to ADP molecule. Enzyme catalyzing this reaction is pyruvate kinase enzyme, and this is the second substrate level phosphorylation reaction. So this reaction also yielding the giving rise to ATP molecule, and this is non-oxidative phosphorylation reaction. So oxygen is not required for this reaction. So in the 10th step, we can see that phosphoenol pyruvate will be giving rise to pyruvate. In this process, these 2 molecules of phosphoenol pyruvates losing phosphates to ADP. So 2 ATP molecules will be forming in this reaction. So in this way, the substrate of this pathway, glycolysis pathway, is glucose. Okay, substrate of glycolysis pathway is glucose. So, and in the energy receiving phase, first phase, they are receiving 2 molecules of ATP and 2 molecules of inorganic phosphate molecules also will be received by them, and 2 NAD plus molecules, 2 hydrogen ions, and 4 ADP molecules are utilized in this reaction. All these are considered as substrates. And whereas end products are 2 pyruvic acids, 2 hydrogen ions, 4 ATPs, 2 H2O molecules, and 2 NADH and 2 ADP molecules are the end products of this reaction. So this is the reaction, whole reaction of the glycolysis pathway. So the summary of this thing is summary of this energy summary of this or energy budget of this glycolysis pathway. So consumption of ATP molecules and gain of ATP molecules are the 2 things. And in the consumption of ATP molecules, in the first step, glucose will be receiving or will be utilizing 1 ATP molecule. And in the third step, glucose fructose 6-phosphate also will be utilizing another ATP molecule. So 2 ATP molecules are utilized here in this reaction. And energy yielding will be done in 7th and 10th phases. So in 7th phase, 2 ATP molecule, and in the 10th phase also, 10th step also, 2 ATP molecules. On the whole, 4 ATP molecules will be forming. So 2 ATP molecules were utilized and 4 ATP molecules are generated. So net gain of ATP is 2 ATPs are the net gain of ATPs as a result of this glycolysis process. Apart from these ATP molecules, 2 NADH molecules also will be formed. These NADH molecules, they will be releasing 3 molecules of ATP each in electron transport and oxidative phosphorylation processes. So this is about the glycolysis. So with this, this topic is over. In the next class, we will meet with another topic. Till then, bye.